Today we're back working on our single cab short box turbo truck. If you guys haven't watched any of the previous episodes, we bought it. It had a nuked piston in it. So we're rebuilding this short block right here and we're gonna put it back in this thing so we can have turbo truck fun. And on the last episode, we got our block honed out, cleaned up, ready for cam bearings. We've also got our pistons and rods here ready for new rings. We got new cam bearings, new valve seals, new front and rear mains, and new head gaskets. And it's time to assemble this short block. Man, the mullet getting thick though. Lead singer of Foo Fighters. We're gonna start with the most time consuming part of this. I put a ring on the oil gallery of the piston. We're gonna use that to press our rings into the bore. And that's how we're gonna square up the ring, and we're gonna do all the rings, starting with one of them. All right, these three are done. We're gonna do this one right now. We'll take our top ring. I'd like to just point it at me, keep everything consistent anyways. Put that in there. I'm going for a 26 thousandths top ring, 28 thousandths bottom ring, and then I just have 24 just so I know where I'm at. So if the 24 doesn't fit in there, obviously we have to grind it down a little bit, which it doesn't fit in there. Take that out. Comes over here to the grinder. I've done this a couple times and you guys mentioned that I should probably just grind one side, so I always just grind the left side now. Don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure the top ring is actually a harder material than the bottom one, so it's gonna take more work to get the top one where it needs to be than the bottom one. Just kind of get all the burrs off it so you don't scratch up your cylinder wall. And then put that back in there. So 24 almost fits in there. Now this is really important because the ring gaps are really crucial when you start making more power. By opening up the ring gap, you give the ring more room to expand. So when it's in the cylinder, it's sitting at about 26 thousandths, which is really close. Now as the ring expands, that gap is going to close up. And if it closes all the way up, the ring has nowhere else to expand. So when it's trying to expand, it actually tries to like flip up on itself. And now your steel ring is going to be a lot stronger than your cast piston. And when it tries to lift up on itself, it actually breaks a part of the piston, and that's how you break the ring land on your piston. Now, obviously there's a trade-off of having too much ring gap, you're just going to get a bunch of blow-by, and then having not enough ring gap, you're going to end up cracking a piston. So I shoot for 26 thousandths on the top ring and 28 thousandths on the bottom ring, and that's how I've done it on all my motors. And that just seems to be the happy spot on the 5.3. The disassembly process, sure, be reckless, take it all apart. The reassembly part, just be meticulous with it, take a little bit of time. This is where all the prep work and being accurate is gonna help you build your adult Legos, because that's basically what LSs are. They're just adult Legos. The pieces fit from one to the other, and you can just use everything. Who didn't love Legos? You felt so accomplished when you built the Lego, and your mom just didn't care. 26 too tight, 24. So we're right at 24. 26 doesn't fit. 24 snug in there. And that's how I do it. I basically just square the ring up in the bore, I measure it out, and then if I need to take a little bit off, I just take a little bit off at a time. It might take me 5 or 6 times putting the ring in and out to get it, but at least I'm not gonna overshoot and have a ring that's like 32 thousandths on the top. I'll continue getting these done. See you guys in a bit. All of our rings are done. We're just gonna keep them there for the moment. I think what we're gonna do next, get our cam bearings in there. Now the cam bearings are actually labeled. There should be 3 different sizes, and they're actually going in different positions, as you can see here. Position 1 and 5, which is front and rear, 2 and 4, and then 3. And then they have their different numbers right there, so make sure you definitely know where you're putting them. We're actually gonna flip the motor over for this. Now, the hole in the LS is actually like right here at this angle, and the bearing actually has 2 holes on it. So one way to ensure that you get the bearing hole lined up with this hole is what you do is you mark the center of these 2 holes right here, and then that is your straight up and down position when you put it in here, and then your hole that is right here on the side will definitely line up with the hole that is in the side of the block. Once again, we're going to be using this universal cam bearing tool that I picked up. I don't even remember where I picked it up. It's a little bit stressful for the cam bearings going inwards, but this little piece is definitely going to help. We're going to start with our rearward most bearing, which is number 5. So we need CHP 23-1. CHP 23-1. Now, like I said, we're gonna mark our spot in the center of the 2 holes right here. And we know that position has to be straight up and down to line up with the oil holes. Our tool is gonna go through. That's the wrong tool size, Kyle. So as you can see, our oiling holes right here in our crankshaft line up with our line on our cam bearing. This piece is gonna get centered in here. Basically, we just hope for the best, really, I think. I think that's how this works. And then once it's in there, you can use a little tiny pick or something like that just to make sure that the oiling hole is fully over the oiling hole on the block, which mine is not. And if it's not over the oiling hole, you gotta push it in further or else you're gonna wipe the cam bearings out because there's gonna be no oil on them. Mine's gotta go in probably another width of that oiling hole. Good. On to the next one. There. All our cam bearings are in the tunnel now. We're gonna give it a once more clean over. Then we can put the crank in, and then we can put our pistons and rods together and put those in. It's coming, boys. Just tedious little baby steps the whole way. Remember, listen to Ricky, subscribe to the channel.
Subscribe to Boosted Lifestyle.
And we're gonna scrub down these cylinders with some ATF here. This will be my first scrub, and I'll go through them again afterwards, but if you can run a blue thing through it, and it comes out looking like that, you definitely got a lot more work to do. And I've got a lot more work to do. We're gonna put the stock bearings back in it. The reason we reuse the stock bearings is the Alice bearings are pretty hard. And we know that they work. The fact that we know that they worked instead of putting a new bearing in there that we know doesn't work is just, it makes like another failure point, I feel. And it's just like, we're trying to make a little 600 horsepower motor, so go with what you know. And like looking over the bearings, there's nothing in here that I can catch my fingernail on or anything like that, so I'm not largely worried about it. Now, another reason I don't put brand new bearings in these things is like, it's always the what ifs. Like, it's like, okay, what if we just add bearings? And then you're like, oh, what if we just add pistons? What if we just add rods? And the next thing you know, you've got this $40,000 engine built in your mind just because you wanted to change bearings. Like, you're sick. It's never happened to me. It's cold out here in Canada, so our assembly lube's a little bit on the thick side. And we're just gonna reuse the old crank. Came out of this block because we know it works. Oh, that wasn't good. Spins free. Main caps. I've always got this book handy as well for tips and tricks, and it tells you basically how to assemble it. And we're at this part right here, torquing down the crankshaft, baby. So I'm just gonna snug down all our main caps first just to make sure they're all seated. Just like 15 foot-pounds. Now everything to 40. Then everything gets backed off to no less than 4. So we're gonna go reverse. Now everything goes to 16. So basically we've got to use this stupid angle thing right here because we got to go 80 degrees past our 16 foot-pounds of torque on the main studs. We don't have a fancy torque wrench. Some of them read angle. Because I know Hog Jogger Dan has one that reads the angle on it, but we don't have that fancy thing, so 80 degrees on the inner bolts, 53 degrees on the outer bolts. I lost my forward crankshaft thrust. Oh yeah, fun times. And now a quick little spin test, see if it still moves. It does. It's a little bit on the tight side because I got lots of lube in there, but. All right, now that the crank is in place, we're gonna give the pistons a little bit of a once over just to make sure that I got all the carbon out of the ring lands. There's a little tiny bit I can see, so I'll give them a once over here, and then I will put the rings on them, put the rod on them, put them where they're supposed to go, and then we can assemble them in the motor once they're all together. Like I said earlier, it's really all in the prep work, and not that I'm over prepping a lot of it, but to have a majority of it cleaned is definitely crucial. And like I said, I'm sure you guys are gonna have some suggestions on things that I should be doing. I'm not perfect by any means, and I'm just some dude in his garage just trying to have some fun. I'm not good at everything, but I try to be able to do everything a little bit. That way I don't have to rely on other people to get things done around here. Not that I wouldn't love an assistant, because I would love to have someone in here to hang out all the time. I think it'd be super fun. And we're going to attempt to assemble one of these rods and piston combos. Now, there is a dimple in the I-beam right here on the one side. Apparently, this goes to the back of the motor, and then the dot and the piston right here goes towards the front of the motor. So we have to make sure we orientate all of our pistons or rods in a way that all of these are going to be facing backwards and all of these are going to be facing forwards. I'm actually going to roll the engine over and I'm going to look at it physically from the side that I have to put it in. The piston faces this way, rod faces that way. Dimple towards the rear. Hi, Lova. Whoop. Yeah. Gina came in and ruined the shot, but we got one piston and rod here assembled. We're going to start with our bottom ring first, then our second one, then our top one. Let's get one of these assembled. Still tastes good though. So this is the bottom one. This is like the oiling one. That goes on. Doesn't have to take too much effort because it just kind of goes over. And then you've got one of these for the bottom part of the oiling ring and one for the top part. So put the bottom one on first. Work that one around. Okay, that one ended up in the top. That's that bottom set, nice and loose on there. The second piston ring actually has a dot on it, and the dot will go up. I'm not gonna worry about location of them right now. Before we put them in the engine, we will make sure they're all located right, and then I'm just gonna pull it apart with my thumbs here, get it to slide over the piston. There we go. And the top ring. This one is much stronger, and this one doesn't have a dot, so the orientation doesn't really matter. Yep, there's a gap. There's a gap. That is one piston and rod done. It doesn't seem like a lot, but the work to get to this point is a lot. I'll do 8 more. See you when it's time to put those slugs in the barrel. Whatever that means. Boom! Look at that. 8 pistons. Good to go. Also, I blew the arse out of my pants at some point today, and I don't even know when. I blew the arse right out of her. To the point just the pocket's covering my butt now. I also bought this tool from BTR. What a game changer this thing is. It's like a tapered piston ring compressor thing that you just kind of foot on the block. And there's like a little groove here that fits on the block. Lube up your pistons, right into place. All right, we're starting over here. It's the easiest, number 2. That's this one. Gonna lube up the rings. Piston ring cup. Put some assembly lube on the rod bearing. Let's get this piece in. Dimple goes towards the front. That means this edge is towards the crank, and this edge is towards the other rod. Oh, I have to orientate these rings. I almost had a boo-boo there. I almost forgot to align my rings, and I had the top 2 rings like right on top of each other. That would have been bad. So now we have the oil rings at 10 and 2. We have the second ring at 6, and then the top ring at 12. That way they're opposite each other, and now I can live easier. top ring. Just trying to guide it on the crankshaft at the same time as I push the screw. God, this thing makes it easier. Holy. One. All of our pistons and rods are in place. All the dots are pointing forward, both sides. Ooh. Now we can flip this thing over, torque the rods. We are just reusing the stock rod bolt, so it'll be 15 foot-pounds plus 85 degrees. And we're gonna do these in order just so we don't miss any. I haven't done this angle thing too many times, but I realize if I can get the wrench far enough and get it in one sweep, it's definitely better than trying to make two passes at it. Camshaft's going to go in now. It's just a Camp Stage 1 turbo camshaft, which would be great for our little 79mm turbo. I don't know where I put the rear plate on this motor, and there's one right there on that engine, but I know as soon as I pull that one off, I'm going to find this one, so I'm not putting it on. Like, I literally checked everywhere 2 times. Can't find it. So we're just going to jam the cam in there with a bunch of assembly lube. Now there's definitely something as too much lube, because, you know, if there's too much lube, it's not sensitive enough. You lose feeling. I'm gonna roll that around this thing. Well, it slides in through the bearings. That's a good sign. It seems a little tight. Oh, it was just lube. The Magic Wizard bump stick in. I'm not a fan of this double roller timing kit, but it's all we have, so it's what we're gonna use. I do have to pull the timing gear off that engine to put on this one, so we gotta pull this sprocket off in order to start timing the engine now. Short block things, so much fun. So the cam was on 0. We'll put it at 0. Maybe we'll check it. Maybe we won't. Who knows? We probably will after. Now you can see our timing dot is pointed straight up and down, which also means piston number 1 is top dead center. And now we can put our backing plate piece on and our top timing gear, and then we can finally put our timing chain on. And that dot should line up with the dot that's on the other gear. This piece goes on. And I bet you this pin on the cam right here, oh, goes this way somewhere. Dot goes down. That pin is over on the left there, so yeah. I think I had it right. Dot goes down. Oh my god, I'm a wizard. I'm a wizard, Harry. You know, with 3 bolts, you kind of want to torque it in like a triangle pattern. Just like, it doesn't matter which one you start at, just do a triangle pattern. So like, you don't want to go from here to here and then back to here, because that would be wrong. Big question now, does it still spin over? Because you know what, we're just some dude in a 2-car garage doing what he can with the tools that he has. I'm no engine builder, I'm no tuner, I'm no whatever you want to call it. I just like having fun, dude. And sometimes I make mistakes, and we could have totally made some mistakes on this one, and we'll find out when we run it. But it still spins over, which is a good sign. I've had the lifters submerged in oil here for a little bit. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put the oil pump on the front now here. And once the oil pump's in and then the lifters are in, we can put our front cover on and our lifter trays in, and it'll be basically an assembled short block. And we won't be installing the heads today just because we have a lot of prep work to do to get those heads ready. The valve springs out of these heads actually have to go in, not these ones. Got a lot of head around here. These heads, but these ones need a desperate cleanup before we install them. I mean, these ones would be nice in there, I just don't trust them at all. Just waiting on push rods for my engine, then my TFS heads are ready to go. And we might go to the track tomorrow with Tokyo's car just to see what it can run before the end of the season. Wow, these spacers are highly annoying. There we go. Lifters get to go in now. Now these lifters only have one lifter hole in them, but because of this body, I'm sure you can put it any direction. I'm just gonna point these down because I know that's where the oil galleries are. So they're going down in the trays. Also, motor oil, probably the best hand moisturizer in the world. Just getting motor oil over everything. Look, I bet my hands are like silky smooth now. Look at that. All that expensive cream, nothing like motor oil. If it's not called a motor, why is it called motor oil, huh? It's not called, maybe it is called engine oil. Motor oil. Now the last part of the short block is gonna be this front cover here, which we gotta tap out the front main seal because we're gonna put a brand new one in it. And the rear cover, which I still can't find. I have no idea what happened to it. But we're gonna tap this one out. We've got a new front main here. This isn't even our cover, is it? I think our cover had a bung in it. Or is it the pan that has the bung in it? I think it's the pan that has the bung in it. I got scared there for a second. So we're just gonna tap this one in very lightly. Mint. And we get a new gasket. All right, let's get this front cover on here. I actually have a really nifty tool here that will help us center the front cover because you have to center the front cover on the crankshaft. Just get some of these started. Now it's super cheap and super affordable. It's called a hogged out balancer. If you've never heard of a hogged out balancer before, you're probably not the first guy. All it is I cut a balancer off and hogged out the middle portion so it slides easily on the crankshaft, and then you can put that on the crank. You can tell our cover was too low. Get that centered on the seal. And then I want to make sure our bottom pieces are level with the block. Easy as that. Now our front main seal should be centered. Now there you have it. Here's our short block assembled. This is our True North Turbo 79mm. This is the turbo we're going to be using on this truck. I am part owner of True North Turbo, so that's why we're showcasing one of our turbos on this build. And this thing is going to be perfectly sized for our little 5.3 since we're aiming for like 600 or 700 horsepower. Just reliable numbers on the street, on pump gas, nothing special, and we don't want to blow it up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like I said, not a how-to video, just a how to do it in your garage kind of video. This isn't anywhere near what a machine shop would do for you. And immediately after this video is released, I just got the welder here today. Every $1 spent on boostedlifestyle.com will get you one entry to win this Everlast welder. I run an Everlast welder and I'm a big advocate for anybody trying to learn a new skill. TIG welding is super fun. It's a little bit tricky to get into, but once you do get into it, it's super rewarding, and being able to fabricate your own stuff is a game changer. I'm Kyle, that's True North Turbos. Peace easy, get that V.